Hello, my friends. Okay, so welcome to the Bread of Life. What is this channel actually about? Well, today I'm going to try to briefly explain to you in further details what I have been diving into, what I'm getting more involved with this year, and what I was led to start this channel in the first place. This channel is meant for healthier lifestyle, and where God had showed me from the beginning when I was at one point hungry. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what to do. Where I live was absolutely, and I kid you not, was no resources for pantries, nothing. I couldn't even sell anything for food because I didn't have anything at the time. I had just moved to the state and I didn't know anybody. And I had nothing but a prayer. And I prayed, and I had a vision basically of a pack of seeds and a shovel. And the first thought in my mind is, and what am I supposed to do with that? And it started from there. I started becoming a homesteader. I would purchase seeds, grow my own vegetables, started realizing that my body was feeling healthier. I started, just at this point, I wasn't fully into it, but it was starting my journey to where I'm at. The second part of that journey came in much later when we found out my husband was diabetic. I became pre diabetic. uh, I was also extremely high in cholesterol, and I still have struggled. To this day, I have struggled. So I'm diving deeper in more. And okay, God, you know where I'm supposed to be, so lead me. I'm willing and able. I no longer concentrate on just my weight. I've tried diets, y'all. Oh, Lord, have I tried the diets. We even did the low carb. Yes, we lost weight so fast it shocked our body. Literally, it made me sick. I was becoming very sick. My cholesterol was out of this world. Uh, I was losing my hair very badly. I just couldn't. I was sick to my stomach. It was just too awful. And then when I decided to try the Mediterranean lifestyle for a permanent, when I started learning where God was teaching me where I should have been and not, um, I gained every bit of that back just as fast as I lost it. That should have told me that this was a fad I should have never been in. Again, it shocked my body and messed up my metabolism. So today, I put the scale aside. I'm not going to worry about it no more. What I'm going to concentrate is eating healthy. I am tired of the diets. Diets don't do anything. It's stressful. To me, it's a mess. It's restrictive. God never meant us to be restrictive. And I'm going to bring this to you through this channel. I am using the resources of our Bible, and I had run into some pretty amazing informational books. Now these books say diets, but honestly, it's not about the diet. It's the diet in terms of what this channel is about isn't per se restrictive type of diet. It is the diet of lifestyle, the way we were meant to eat. And we're going back to that. Through the bread of life, we're going back to the way God had created from the beginning. And it's interesting if people doesn't believe, or if folks seriously don't believe that the Bible is connected into the way we eat today, please, I assure you, it is. And I am going to prove that. At first, I was like, now, how can that be? But even from the beginning in the book of Genesis, God created man and woman and he put them in the Garden of Eden. Now, listen carefully. In the Garden of Eden, he gave them every plant there was for food sources. There was fruit and vegetables of every kind. Only he restricted one tree, a tree of apples that was to produce wisdom and knowledge. He restricted them on that. But everything else was free. God knew that we needed to eat to be able to live and to be sustained along with water. So they had everything, even though Eve chose to go beyond that. And thanks to Eve, I now have an apple belly. Just, sorry, y'all. But the thing it started out with, God knew we needed nourishment. As we go further, we find that Jesus is represented as the bread of life. Grain was highly important through the life of the Bible. And it's amazing, there are 3 ancient grains, 2 of which I know for a fact were used as either farro, which was cooked. It's cooked grains. Barley and wheat. These 2 were mainly used, leavened and unleavened bread. Yet a lot of diets will restrict bread. But it comes to a point, there's a certain type of bread. And this is where it became very unique to me, and I started getting into research. Now, I'll tell you, I have been homesteading now for nearly 5 years. Within the homesteading, I also learned to mill my own flour. I work with making my own bread sources. I am going deeper into understanding whole foods, suppressing against others at times. And I am going to dedicate this whole entire channel to inform us going back to the way we should have been from the beginning. There's nothing wrong with going back. In matter of fact, going back will probably sustain and prolong our life further than what our American standard lifestyle is today. Our food is not always healthy for us. And I am learning this the hard way as I watch diabetes rise, obesity, heart disease, cancer. This is a warning sign and something that made me go, hold on, what is wrong here? When we are sitting here with diabetes, when we are overweight, we can't help to say sometimes this isn't just us. It is what we are consuming. And a lot of the foods that we are consuming is making us to desire more. It's a craving. It was what was added to our food to create this mess. Going back in the biblical times wasn't just saying, I want to eat like Jesus did. No, for me, it was because I wanted to be healthy. I knew there was a way. I prayed for this, y'all. I fasted for this. I wanted to know what made folks live till 900 years old. Now, certainly can't think and fathom living that long today. However, it was not uncommon for that to happen. People lived long, prosperous, healthy lives. Why don't we? And it has to do with our food. So this is what we're going to do and break down how to live healthier. What did they eat in biblical times? What made them healthier, prosperous, and long life? And this is what we're going to break it down to. As I told you, we started out through the Garden of Eden. And so I'm going to take bits and pieces out of these books to inform you and maybe take some notes, because this, y'all, has been an eye-opener for me. As a matter of fact, I am sitting here with a cold due to our weather fluctuating up and down. And my first instinct is I need cold medicine. I'm restraining from that this year. And so what I decided to do is I ran across some information on common herbs. It's amazing because some of these common herbs are the same things that was mentioned in the Bible or even used in biblical times, such as thyme, Thyme, or otherwise known as thyme. Do you know that using 2 to 3 teaspoons of dried or fresh thyme in hot water, steeped 10 to 12 minutes. Let me tell you what it has done. I use a cup of this. I steeped this time, added only honey, no sugar, and real lemons, no, not bottled. And these were natural foods. And I was like, I've tried everything else. Why not try this? It is an anti-inflammatory, amazingly. Also, it is an antibacterial. So anything you have from thick mucus, cold, flu, any of these, cough, thyme is a type of herb that helps with this. My nose was dripping earlier and I just had my cup of thyme, and y'all, it is, oh my goodness. Not only is it good for antibacterial, but it also helps suppress in between eating, so we're not snacking so much. Sometimes we get this thing called food noise, that noise that says you got to have this, you've got to have this, when in reality, no, we don't. Thyme has a way of suppressing the appetite enough to say, you know what, I'm full and I can get through my day. It gives me more energy, and it's helping curing this mess inside of my body all naturally. We don't have enough information out here for all naturals, especially in the ones where we sit in reality world, not AI, y'all. Not in a place where it's just coming up that let me get for ratings. It's not about ratings. This is about our health. This is about our real lives. This is about our desperation as I've had enough and I can't take this no more. This is where I sit. I've had enough. I'm tired of the fads. You can find enough of this online. And yes, I'm online, but in between the racket, the noise, and the mess, you will find real. And I'm that person who's real. I am the person who is fed up, had enough, and I want to know answers. And the only way I'm going to do that is I fast and pray. Now, you hear some parts about fasting, intermittent fasting, and this, and praying and fasting for 21 to 40 days. Let me inform you about something else, not totally mentioned, and I have learned recently. Recently. Okay. Yes, there is intermittent fasting. There were 3 types of fasting, even in the Bible. Some of this, one of them was it's a very harsh way, but you have to really, really want something to be able to do something like this, and that is total abstination. It is not highly recommended for long periods of times. There was a point where Esther, she fasted for 3 days. She had absolutely nothing and sustained from eating any or drinking anything for 3 days. That is about as far as I would take that if I were anybody else. The other types of fasting were intermittent fasting from, say, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. or 6 to noon, or throughout most of the day skipping breakfast and lunch and just eating dinner. These are intermittent fastings, and this is a point of what's also called partial fasting. It's not complete. God knew we needed food, y'all. He wasn't telling us to sustain completely. That is totally up to choice, but know how and wisely how to do that. The final part of it, which is number 3, and is what we are doing, is giving up something that you treasure, or not treasure, but something you love and enjoy, such as sweets, or a certain meat, or all meats, or for us, it's red meat. Number 1, red meat is considered a delicacy. It is a very expensive, just like the king's table. Beef, red meat is highly expensive food. So to give up red meat tells us, it's us telling God we're serious about our prayers right now. So, and giving up red meat during this process for 21 days, We're going to find out how well does it work for our body. It's also giving us an opportunity to try different foods like ground chicken and ground turkey, using poultry in various different ways, whether it be duck, chicken, turkey, whatever, pheasant, different foods. Then there's so many different types of fish that we would like to try. This has given us an opportunity, vegetables, legumes, lentils, every different type of food, all natural, that God had created for us to try in healthier ways. And what will that do for us in 21 days? We're about to find out, because we are determined in prayer. I am praying for a few things right now, and one of them is even over this channel, because I do believe there are answers, and I do believe that we can find them on our own instead of being told what we should do. I understand, there are doctors and therefore are good, but sometimes common sense tells us something's not right. So, and that's where I'm standing at. Something's not right, and I turn to God. So I will tell you all, I am not a doctor by far. I don't have all the answers. I'm definitely not a nutritionist. I'm an ordinary person who's fed up. I'm an ordinary person who doesn't want to be controlled by medication, because one medication leads to another medication to another medication. How do I know this? I'm watching this happen to my husband. I do not want to be in that racket again. So I turn to the one I can trust with everything, literally trust, and that is God. So here I am. I'm presenting it to you in a Christian channel, and it's just, you don't have to be Christian to be a part of this channel. You can just be the person that says, I've had enough too, and I would like some answers. I would state that if you would like to receive God as your personal Savior, just talk to me and I will help lead you, because it is the most amazing thing that has ever happened to me. I get better knowledge, peace in mind, and less stress every time I turn to God. In everything else in my life, it's chaos otherwise. So, and I'm not here to preach at anybody. What I'm here is to help lead into a healthier lifestyle. Now, I have learned that the Mediterranean lifestyle coincides with the biblical lifestyle. They were absolutely perfect. The Mediterranean world knew exactly what it was like to live prosperous. And you will find statistically, the folks who live in the Mediterranean lifestyle are so much healthier than us. They actually ban a lot of our foods, which is self-explanatory, and they thrive. They're not always slender, but they're healthy, they're active, they're amazing. It's their medical records are far more cleaner than ours. So, does that mean that they don't have issues? Absolutely not. Occasionally people do have issues. What we can control, we're going to control. What we can't control, we ask God to help us. And so this is one that we can control. A few of the things that I learned already that I'd like to share with you that I found amazing, and there's so much. This channel has a lot to go by, a lot to go by. So a few of the things that we're going to start with, because we are coming back with so much more, is some of the key factors of why this channel is starting, and how does this actually work in our life. How does eating, or how we prepare our tables, have to do with the Bible? Okay, how does it coincide with each other? This is how honoring God through health. It states here, and now this is in the Apostolic Diet book by Franklin John. I am using the resources through this, and it makes a lot of sense as I went back and I studied, and I have on my own several times went through the Bible and found various areas where God had spoke to us on ways to stay healthy in our lives. Um, I cannot believe all these years that I was reading the Bible that I never came across this. And maybe at the time it wasn't for me to find it, but like it is today. But in this one here, it says there is a growing awareness in the world that health is not simply the absence of disease, but the presence of balance. Mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual alignment. Let me ask you, if you don't feel good, do you really feel like doing anything, let alone even going to church? Do you feel like doing anything in service for God? Most of the time the answer is absolutely not. We just want to lay in bed. If we have no energy, we can't serve God in anything, whether it be to take care of somebody else who is sick and make a meal for them, whether we go for praise and worship. We can't do anything because our bodies are telling us, I ain't moving, plain and simple. So to take care of ourselves really means a lot for our health, our life, and for our prosperity even, and even our walk with God. It states here also, but for apostolic believers, the motivation for health goes far deeper than self-care or appearance. It's about honor. In 3 John 1:2, it says, Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. The early church fathers and apostles saw no conflict between soul and prosperity and bodily well-being. They were aligned. To honor God through health means to bring every part of our life under His lordship, including what we eat, how we move, when we rest, and how we manage stress. It means viewing sleep, hydration, digestion not as mundane, but as spiritual discipleship or disciplines. Food for fuel, for ministry, which is for praying, our stamina, our clarity to hearing God, where our minds are not fogged up and boggled down. We rest as worship. God rested. Even after creating heaven and earth in 7 days, God rested. We find that we have to be overachievers in this world, that we got to do it all, and we don't rest. We will wear ourselves down to the ground. And by the time that we retire, we're so exhausted, there's nothing to do in life. We just want to lay around. You know, I wished I knew a lot of things now, or before then, before I do now, but it's not too late. So, and this is the reason I'm bringing this up. A few of the things that we will bring up today as far as what was eaten in them days. And it's amazing. Did you know sweeteners? Okay, you know us as having sweeteners as sugar, brown sugar, honey, maple syrup. What's used the most though is sugar, white refined sugar, brown sugar, artificial sweeteners, all these things, kale syrup. Oh my goodness. But do you know what the natural sweeteners were in the biblical days? And it's the ones I'm returning to, actually. There were a few, but make sure it's, when we look into the world today versus in times back then, we have to be very careful what we choose, because I will tell you there's a lot of additives in our food that don't belong. Raw honey, and I mean absolutely raw honey. Most of the time the honey you're going to get from the grocery store, we can't guarantee is actually raw. A lot of these honeys are being slipped in with sugar, and you won't really know. There's tests to tell if it's raw or not, but your basic bet, if you want actual raw honey, you want to look for something. We go through Azure Standard. Azure Standard is an amazing company, and when it says organic, it really is organic. I don't know if I would trust Walmart in anything organic personally, but I do trust Azure Standard. One of the other methods you can do is check your co-ops, because most of the times they can have local farmers that have raw honey, or your farmer's market. Look for somebody local who owns an apiary. 95% of the time, you are going to get organic raw honey. This is one of the natural sweeteners and one of the best for you. Now, there is a point of overindulgence. We don't do this. We use it just for to sweeten, and that's it. We can have a sweetened treat, but we're not to overindulge in anything. In our life, we are taught supersized is the best, and it is not. Oh, Lord have mercy. It is not the best, and I learned that the hard way. Trust me, y'all, I have been through that as well. Everything we ordered when we ordered out was supersized. Yep. Mind. It was the way of life, I guess. The other factors of sweetener were dates. I never tried a date up until recently, and oh my goodness, I did not know what I was missing. I recently made a Snickers bar, basically, from all natural Mediterranean Snickers bar, and it was 4 ingredients. 4, y'all. And there was no baking involved. It was just nothing but mashed up dates, to where it was mashed up, I guess. You could spread it. It was mashed up dates spread out into a pan. Tahini was used as a nut based, like peanut butter. It was tahini, which tahini is nothing but um, mashed up sesame seeds. Just like you use peanuts for peanut butter, sesame seeds is what makes tahini. Amazing flavor with dates, topped with pecans or walnuts, and then drizzled with a very dark chocolate. I use 70% cacao, dark chocolate. Amazing. Oh my goodness, that was an amazing treat. One little small block satisfied my sweet tooth, and I didn't have to have much more than that. It was beautiful. So dates are amazing treats. You can even mix them with a drizzled with a little honey, mixed in with some pine nut mash in the center, or even goat cheese is really good. I tried it too. Wow. I was impressed. Figs. Figs is used in the Bible several times. Figs is an amazing fruit. Not only is it for sweetener, but for fiber sources and so many others, nutrients and vitamins. The other one is a natural, but not used much in the Bible, was maple syrup. Maple syrup is to be used very sparingly. I will tell you, brown sugar, refined sugar, none of this was ever used. Not even cane sugar. So honey was the number one, dates, figs. These were more of the sweeteners used in breads or whatever else for resources. Now this video could last forever, and I'm telling y'all, it really could. But this is a reason why I started this channel, because we are going to dissect this life, and then we are also going to have recipes using the all-natural ingredients. I am getting ready to plant my gardens again this year. Using those vegetables, we are going to create meals into our kitchen, and I'm going to show you how you could use whole foods to make what we love and enjoy. So a lot of this can be even used. Here's a few of the dairies that were, yes, dairies were even used in the Bible. I mean, you had your goats during these times, and they had cattle. Goat's milk is what made cheese. And so you had goat's cheese, or you had other kind of cow's cheese, farmer's cheese. It's not all the cheeses that we have today, but it was the beginning of it. There was milk at that point. So, and along with the dairy, we have yogurt. Yogurt was really easy to make. Today it's really easy to make, but we tend to buy it. I will tell you the biggest secret. Please hear me on this. If you are going to choose a whole food, let me tell you, look carefully at your ingredients. You will find if you go towards the low fat, and we are all told, please go to the low fat. Be very careful into that low fat, because if you were to compare, and I did this for myself, this is how I know, this is why I'm going to tell you. I was told go low fat in this or that. What I found was there was more sugar in the low fat than there is in the whole foods. Such as yogurt, there was more, and I'm talking plain. I do not touch any of those fruit yogurts because they're not always made with real fruit, and there is a ton of sugar added to that. I will take whole blueberries or whole raspberries, add it to plain whole Greek yogurt, and make my own fruit yogurt out of it. I use real fruit. Now, basically, our fruits and vegetables are not like they were or are in the Mediterranean. We tend to get fruits and vegetables way out of season. It is best if we try to work our lifestyle for the season, and preserving our foods is the best way to do that. And I'm going to look in doing that this year. When blueberry season comes out, I'm going to look at canning my blueberries to have it throughout the winter, knowing that I have a very fresh seasonal fruit. Because a lot of these things are picked too early, and in the process of being too early, they're not fully ripened, and they don't have the full nutrients and vitamins, hence the reason they are tasteless. But anyways, I have noticed that anything that was low fat or fat free had more sugar than that which is whole foods. I choose to try to moderate myself and having the whole real foods than to turn around and have something that gives me more sugar to substitute for the taste that they are pulling out of it to make it fat free. It is a thing. Just watch for yourself. Don't take my word. Look for yourself. A few other things that were used in a lot, and here I'm going to go with this one, and then this is going to be as far as I'm going to go today with this, because I'm going to go much further. Another one, which is a highly restrictive product, was bread. Bread, we are told today, and it's interesting if you think about this, Jesus is considered the bread of life. However, we are told to sustain and turn away from bread. Now, don't you find that kind of interesting in the aspect of it? Stay away from it. I didn't comprehend this till one day a knowledge came to me, and I was like, wait a minute. Grain was the number one source in a lot of areas of the Bible. Ruth and Naomi, they would take and gather the remnants of grains. Grains were used, barley and wheat. Wheat was for those who basically they were well endowed, they were richer, they could afford the wheat. Where barley was basically for those who were poor. They couldn't afford much, so barley was used. The wheat made their finer delicacy bread sources, where barley made basically a hardened bread, flat bread. Wasn't much of a rise. It was great for unleavened bread, though. Wheat, on the other hand, had its fluffiness, delicacy. The difference, though, between what was done biblically and what is done today is super easy, and I can definitely describe this because I mill my own flour. I know the difference, and I know what it does for my body today versus what I did then. The flour that we purchase from the grocery stores are absolutely dead, and what I mean by dead, y'all, they stripped out everything. All you have literally is a flour source with substitute or added 4 nutrients and vitamins of their choice: niacin, thiamine, and riboflavin, and there's one more, and I can't remember which it is, but it is 4. And the only reason for that was because when they first started to do this to make it shelf stable and stripping all of the nutrients, which, by the way, one wheat berry, once cracked, opens up Pandora's box of 44 nutrients and vitamins. You have your endosperm, you have your germ, and you have your bran, which is your fiber. All of these sources were sifted, removed, processed so bad, bleached, and then put up on your shelf for stability. When you bake a loaf of bread, you aren't getting nothing out of that. Absolutely nothing. Now, if you add ingredients such as whole herbs, you've added a little bit to your bread. If you add yeast, you've added a little bit to your bread. If you add butter, you have added a little bit to your bread. If you add olive oil, you've added a little bit to your bread. But other than that, your bread is dead. When I started realizing, and here's how I found out, my husband being diabetic, they tell us for all diabetics to refrain and stay away from bread sources. Why didn't they ever tell us to switch over to whole foods? Literally, whole foods. I'm going to give you an example. My husband had a sandwich. We had people saying, let him have this. It's going to be okay. We tried it. Lord have mercy. He had a sandwich, 2 slices of bread. And this is from the grocery store too, y'all. And I tried it with a homemade loaf of bread. Before I switched over to fresh milling my own flour, I tried this both ways, and my husband spiked in his blood sugar between 300 to 400. It set me on alert and panic. That is so dangerous for that man, and it would overreact his kidneys, livers, everything else. And so his pancreas, for Pete's sakes. And I was like, this something is not right. I went and found a way to purchase a mill. I went and got my first set of grains through Azure Standard, and I thought, what can I lose by trying this? And I milled my flour, made a loaf of bread, and I was amazed to find out that my husband tested under 140 when he had whole grain bread. Not only did I find that, but we had fiber in our diet that was, wow, I could not believe this. The flavor was much more richer and the textures are different. Now, working with this bread had been a journey until I could figure out how to do it. And I do a lot of sharing today, how to make the best breads ever and biscuits. You name it, I'm making it out of fresh milk. I no longer, and I have not been buying flour from the grocery store for the past 2 years. I refuse, because what I'm getting out of fresh milk is amazing. And my husband is able to eat his grains and bread again. God knew what he was doing for us before we even knew today. Now, I will continue to keep sharing. If you are wanting to learn more, I ask that you join this channel, subscribe to it, y'all. Follow us on this journey as I teach you more and more whole foods living, how much healthier it is for us. As I go through making recipes with you, we work in the kitchen together, we create together, and we bring ourselves to wholeness. Maybe even less diseases in our life, maybe even boosting our immune systems and making us healthier and wholesome, and then sharing with others, making this world totally different from everything that was created for us. Yeah, big companies creating food saying it is good for you, and if we really dive deep, we will find how not so good it may be. As far as buying macaroni and cheese in a box, I won't touch it. You will look 95%. Test for yourselves. Go through your pantries. If you have macaroni and cheese in your pantry, go in there and look for the very small 5 print that says or not bioengineered. Yeah, bioengineered. That's what it's called, I believe. This is a bioengineered product or something like that. They cannot use GMO. GMO is highly illegal here, but additives, preservatives, that is not. If you reread the ingredients, check out your ingredients. I'm going to give you this as an example before I sign off for today. Go, if you have grocery store bread, I urge you to go look at your bread, read your ingredients, and I'm going to give you mine. My ingredients for my whole grain bread is very simple. I use sourdough or yeast. I use flour, honey, salt, olive oil, and water. That is it. Everything I have is a whole food source. With that, knowing those, let's see, water, oil, salt, honey, yeast, flour, and then if I want to herbs, these are just the basics. 7 ingredients. And I challenge you to go read yours on your bread and see who has the difference. So until next time, I love you all dearly. I hope you want to learn more. Follow us as we begin to dive deep into our world of foods, eating healthier, living prosperous lives, becoming less sicker in this world that we live in today, and be able to do the things that we want to do with our families again. I love you, and until next time, we will see you again on the Bread of Life.